Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out in the Open, the fabulous show about LGBTQ issues, hosted by Apollonia Cruz and Kelly Kaboom. I'm a little bummed out today. My name is Sam Vasquez, and I'm a special guest host for the show. But Apollonia Cruz and Kelly Kaboom will not be here tonight. They, like everyone else in the rest of the world, are taking precautions because of the coronavirus pandemic, and that's totally understandable. So, and I would also like to say to our viewers that you should also follow special guidelines like social distancing, so that way we can figure out and contain this outbreak that's going on, because it's really serious. And although this show we like to talk about anything educational and something that's really worth learning, we try to do it light, we try to do it fun and entertaining, so that way you could get the information without having to feel hysterical or paranoid about it. But today's show, I would like to talk about something that I've been thinking about, and when I've been on this show, I've brought this up a couple of times, and that is that I tend to see a lot of parallels with the coronavirus pandemic and today, and the HIV/AIDS epidemic of the early 80s. And to tell you a little bit about me, full disclosure, I am HIV positive, undetectable. I've been HIV positive since 2014. I tested positive in 2014. And prior to that, and I'm, pretty healthy as a horse, and some days I'm starting to look like one. But all jokes aside, I remember a time in the early 80s, before I became positive, how scary it was when HIV and AIDS at the time. It was really AIDS. HIV didn't come out till later, but it was AIDS, and they had other names for the epidemic. But I remember a time where people were scared. There was information that was coming out, and of course, like any crises, health scare, wrong information was coming out, and people were doing things that they probably shouldn't have been doing. People weren't getting the right information, and unfortunately, it caused a lot of ignorance, a lot of it was scary times. It was scary times, and I see. I like what I would like to try to compare what it was like then and some of the similarities that I see now. One of them is that back in the days of the AIDS crisis in the early 80s, oftentimes the epidemic was attributed to gay men, right? That gay men were engaging in risky behavior, and it seemed to be hitting them the hardest. They were one of the high risk groups, and it was a scary time, when at that time I was young. I hadn't come out yet. I knew I was gay, but I didn't know what that meant. And and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. People my age at the time, because I was about 13 when that crisis came out, the AIDS crisis came out, and I just thought being gay you could get AIDS. That's how scary it was. Now imagine me, a 13-year-old, back in 1983, thinking that I'm going to get AIDS, and I haven't even engaged in sexual behavior, let alone homosexual sexual behavior. So it was a scary time, and I can only imagine that now with the coronavirus, that once you hear this, you think nothing but fear and being scared, and it is scary, right? Because we don't have all the information about it. But I think it's worth noting that history teaches us a lot about what's going on, and things that we could do about it. Now, before I continue, I just want to mention that, of course, we're a show that we talk about opinions, and we all have different opinions. What I will advise you is that if you do have a concern about the coronavirus, that you should discuss it with either your primary doctor, a doctor, or just go to the CDC website and talk about, you can look up the guidelines for the coronavirus. So that's really the place that you should be looking for information, just so that you could protect yourself. But what I did want, I'd like to ask you, Charles, he's a producer for our show. What I'd like to ask you is, do you remember back in the 80s, and what that was like for the AIDS scare and stuff. Now, before you answer, there's one little thing I want to say, and that is the reason why I'll ask a question like this, and before they answer, I like to say, because I think one of the hardest things about getting older, they say, aging is not for the wimps or the cowards. And that is that people always say, oh, the hard part about getting older is that, it hurts my body, it hurts my bones. For me, the hardest part of aging is when you're telling someone a story and you're using, popular culture references, and halfway through the story, they're looking at you and they're like, damn, bitch, how old are you? That's the worst part of aging. Because I could deal with the back pains, I could deal with the sore muscles, I could deal with all of that. What I can't deal with is looking at someone who was looking at me like, how old are you? I don't remember that. So I just thought that was funny. But anyway, I figured I asked, because Charles, he looks, I'm pretty sure he's maybe a decade younger than I am, but do you remember what it was like back then in the early 80s? And the fear, the panic, the hysteria of the early 80s when AIDS first came out?
Well, being only 21 years old,
I'll buy that.
being only 21, no, but in the 80s when that first came out, just like these, what I call the scare virus,
Right.
The hysteria went crazy.
Right.
Oh, you can't even sneeze, you get AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I heard that this and that happens when you get AIDS. And
Yeah.
everybody was running around, and comedians, of course, there was like, I was sleeping all day. My grandmother said, you must have AIDS. You know what I'm saying? Because you were sleeping all day.
Right.
That's what's happening now.
Yeah.
People don't know anything but what they hear, and they're going crazy.
Yeah.
And then they find out later on how stupid they were looking.
Right.
Like, I should have took the time to realize what is really going on.
Right. Right.
But they didn't do that.
Right.
Nor do they want to do that.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like I said, to me, I even posted up, if you guys are on my page, I posted up Batman slapping Robin. Right?
Okay.
And Robin says, oh, they told me I was supposed to clean my hands, and when I'm going to cough on my arm.
Right.
And then Batman slapping him saying, bitch, they've been telling you that since you were young.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, little things like this is like, really? Like, we telling you now,
Right.
But to get to the whole concept of people getting so scared,
Right.
I even posted up, I'm never going to be in a crowd, never, ever, ever, oh, wait a minute, I'm next on the supermarket line.
Right.
Because that's how people are getting so scared that they don't want to do something, but they don't realize
What
you're
they're
still
doing, right.
other things
Exactly.
that can get you the flu or the virus anyway.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, and it's the paranoid, and I think the paranoia rather, and I think that that's an important thing, right? That we start listening to what everyone is saying, and we don't know what's real, what's not, and we're scared, and when we're scared, we make our worst decisions or the worst mistakes when we're scared, and I think one of the things I learned, and this is the reason why I wanted to bring this up, I remember a time before I became HIV positive, how scared I was to even enjoy sex with another male adult, because it was, am I going to catch this? Am I going to catch that? And so when I did test positive in 2014, I wasn't scared at all. Like I was in a different place, and maybe for another show I could talk more about when I got tested and stuff like that. But the point is that, with many of the LGBTQ warriors of the early 80s who rose up during this time of the HIV/AIDS crisis, they were able to fight for visibility, for getting medication, because, and this is another point that I'm going to go to, which I'm going to discuss, but these were warriors who came out, who fought for our rights, who fought for us to get medication and to get all that. I was lucky to benefit from that, and I think that one thing that we can learn from these warriors is that we shouldn't fear a pandemic or an epidemic or a health scare, we should rise up to the occasion. We should learn. We should research. We should get our information, because oftentimes these scary moments just brings out the worst in us. Um, the next point that I want to get to, which is the reason why I brought this up, The Advocate, which is a magazine and online publication, they've been around since 1967. They've been on the forefront of LGBTQ issues. In fact, that publication came out before the Stonewall riots of 1969. They came out in 67. So that's just to give you an idea of how long they've been around. But there's an HIV activist named Mark S. King, and he wrote an article, an opinion piece on how bothered he is that people compare HIV to the HIV/AIDS epidemic to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, when I compare it, I look for the similarities. I look for how people behave in times like this, when something as scary as these viruses come out, how scary it is, and I look to see similarities in the hopes that we can learn from it. But he brought up an opposing point, which gave me a lot of food for thought, and that was that his piece in The Advocate is called "Just Stop Comparing Coronavirus to Early HIV/AIDS." And one of the things that he brought up that I thought was really interesting is that there are many huge differences between the two. One is that in those days, because there were so many gay men who were going through that, in some ways, many people who were not gay or part of the LGBTQ, they perceived, or they thought of gay men as disposable, that they were garbage, that this was nature or God's way of getting rid of garbage. So that just gives you an idea of the thinking back then, right? And then, of course, if we wanted to talk about in those days, if we wanted to talk about, or at that time, talk about engaging in high-risk behavior, many of the people who fueled this sort of prejudice and this fear were the far right, the religious right, and they didn't want to talk about, high-risk sexual behaviors. As far as they're concerned, that didn't even exist. It reminds me of, growing up in I'm Nuyorican, as I mentioned before, and I remember growing up, especially women would never want to talk about sex as if they never had it, yet they have I don't know, X amount of kids. How did you think that happened, right? You have to have sex, right? But it was funny that at the time, no one wants to talk about sex because that's just too, vulgar, but you needed to talk about it in order to address the issue of catching something through sex, right? So that was one of the points he had made. This writer, Mark S. King. He also brought up that people who use drugs, they were part of the high risk group too. That was, again, nature's way, God's way of getting rid of what people perceived as garbage. And so
Because people don't understand, they
right,
stupid.
and exactly, they don't
They
understand.
you can actually go and tell a person, like I was telling you before, like
Right.
the sky is cloudy, and they go out and there's only 2 clouds. They be like, yeah, it is cloudy out here.
Right.
Just because people were telling them it is.
Right.
And the facts be right in their face,
Yeah.
and they still be like, no,
Yeah.
that's not what it is.
Yeah.
No. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
No, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, the facts is there. Like, how much facts do you really need?
Right.
If they telling you, we don't understand this when HIV came out, we don't understand this yet.
Right.
So why are you believing everything else
Right.
that was said?
Right.
Oh, it came because these guys were doing monkeys. I remember that. Right. They were in Africa doing monkeys.
Monkeys and
then
all
they
the-
went and they did other people.
Yeah.
This is what.
All
but wait a
kinds of
minute.
stuff,
But
right.
then you just said they don't know how is it coming. So why are you guys?
Right. Why do you believe that? Right. And and that's interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up, because for me, in some ways, that's a similarity or something that we can draw parallels with even the Trump administration, right? And conservatives. And conservatives come in both parties. They come in Republican and also Democrat. So I don't want to single out any party, but that belief that that belief that oh, I just lost my thought there because I was bringing up so many stuff. But that people just believe things and they don't want to talk about the truth. Much like the Reagan administration in the '80s, it took them like 6 to 7 years before Ronald Reagan can even utter the word AIDS. Right now, and I think this is where, let's say, the coronavirus and the HIV virus differed. HIV virus was an epidemic. That meant that the virus sort of slowly spread, and it wasn't just one region, right? As opposed to a pandemic. A pandemic usually starts in a region, and then once it spreads from that one region, it starts to spread all over. This particular pandemic spread fast and quickly. I mean, so quick that this president, who's prone to lying, can't even keep up with the lie because you just can't really attribute it to anybody. It's, the whole world, the whole global world is being hit by this pandemic, and so things are happening fast, things are changing fast. Back then, you didn't have social media. Back then, you didn't have people who could say like what they're doing in Italy and in China, where they were turning to social media to tell us now, look, this is what's going on. Take it seriously. This is not a joke. This is not, a conspiracy theory. This is really happening. Back then, you didn't have social media. Hello? You didn't have social media. So you had, so it was, you could, the press could dominate whatever was being said. They could dominate, and, in the beginning, people were getting wrong information. So, whereas now I think we're getting information from social media that could sometimes be a good thing because, people make up stuff, but sometimes, or rather, that could be a bad thing because people make up stuff, but it could also be a good thing because there are people who want to tell the truth, who want to come out, who want to educate the world about what's really happening.
Yeah.
So, so that's an interesting.
Yeah, but with the whole factor, like you said, that we have media,
Yeah.
we have the social media and everything, and it's so funny. We have what we call the biggest teacher in the world,
Right.
Google.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're still getting facts wrong.
Wrong, yeah.
You want to hear what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Just like with the whole thing that's going on, they saying wash your hands, don't go around people.
Right.
Let me see how that's going to work.
Right.
Because you have to go outside.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You have to do things.
Yeah, I think the huge caution with social media is that there are always people who are going to try to exploit whenever there's something like this, right? So when you mentioned hand sanitizer, there was this guy and his brother who, when early on, when the coronavirus was kind of just restricted as to what was going on in China, there was these two brothers who saw kind of what was going on, and they ended up buying up a whole bunch of hand sanitizer. Like I think they had it valued at they had like 18,000 bottles of like hand sanitizer.
Damn.
Right, and they were gonna exploit that, right? Because they thought, okay, they like investors, they see an opportunity, they think, gouge up the prices, jack up the prices. Let's try to sell this. We'll make money. We'll make lots of money. And it got to the point that Amazon had to discontinue their account, so they couldn't even sell it, and they might even get in trouble with the law because they were trying to do that. So there's always people who exploit these things.
Price rising, it's always and will always be something. It's called supply and demand.
Yeah.
And like I said, with people not really listening, they hearing everything,
Right.
but they're not really listening. Or when they're reading, they skipping the important words.
The important words, right?
Toilet paper
Yeah.
is not going to help you, even if a
Right.
big meteor hits the ground and stuff like that. Listen, you got shirts.
Yeah.
You got water.
Right,
In your ass.
right.
But I see a lot of people in the supermarkets with a bunch of
Hoarding. Hoarding.
toilet paper, but I see no food.
Right.
How are you going to use your toilet paper if you don't take a crap?
Yeah, and I still don't even understand the whole toilet paper thing.
I
Because
don't.
I thought the same thing too. Just take a bath.
Yeah, but I seen an interview with a psychiatrist saying that it makes a couple people feel more secure when they have toilet paper.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, are you one of those that's trying to make people buy it?
Right.
Because of the market is going down,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
now you need to try to sell something?
So something, right.
And then if you tell a person, why are you collecting toilet paper? They cannot tell you.
Right.
So why you have all that toilet paper in your cart?
Right.
I don't know, because I didn't want it to run out. Really? You
Yeah.
take that much crap a week?
Yeah.
You know, like.
And that's what we have to be careful. There's always charlatans out there who are going to try to sell you on something, whether it's a cure or whatever. People are always going to try to exploit these things. So, that's the reason why I always recommend, if you want information, go to the CDC website, look at the guidelines on how to handle this pandemic that's going on. Get yourself informed, because there's always going to be people on social media who's going to take advantage of that, and you just want to be careful with that. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is the New York Post. There was an editorial member. I don't even want to mention his name, because I think that what he did here was quite horrible. But what he did, this New York Post editorial member actually is apologizing, because he started on Twitter a poll, an HIV coronavirus poll. Which would you rather have poll?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, imagine. So he's apologizing now, because he's saying, my intent wasn't to try to. I mean, I couldn't even really understand his reasoning.
Yeah, I think I understand what he was trying to do. Because it is the same type of not disease. I'm talking about the whole activity is the same.
Right.
You have a new strain of virus that is coming out.
Right.
No one knows, but everybody's going crazy.
Right.
So that's why maybe he was trying to explain it like that. But you know how some people say the wrong thing.
Right.
In their mind, they're trying to say something.
Right.
But it comes out the wrong way. And
Right.
I'm thinking that's what happened.
What I remember from the article was that he was saying he was trying to reason in terms of the way things are being handled now with the coronavirus and the way things were handled back then with HIV. Which would you rather have? But the concern I have with that, if you look at it another way, imagine if I had asked you if you had to pick between dying in the Holocaust or being a slave,
Right.
an African American slave, which would you rather have? Neither one is a good choice. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, that was both of them are human atrocities. And I think that question is what really sort of bothered a lot of people about him, and the reason why he's probably apologizing, because I think we need to. None of those are ever a good choice. I think if there's anything we can learn, is that no matter what it is, what virus, what pandemic, what epidemic, we can rise above it. There are many people who have been able to survive, and I think if we try to take care of ourselves and we follow health guidelines and stuff like that, that most of us are gonna make it through. The people that we really need to be concerned with are people in the high risk group, right? People who have underlying health issues or who are oppressed. They have an oppressed immune system. Those are people who need to worry about, and people over 65, over 60, 65, need to be concerned with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also, too, to add to that, asthmatic, people who smoke too, because again, this coronavirus tends to attack the respiratory system. So if you have respiratory issues, health issues, you really want to, heed the call and really take care of yourself, because you're very vulnerable.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yes.
Because I got to plug my show in. Thursday, I'm going to be talking the whole conspiracy behind this thing that's going on. But everything that you said, people should supposed to already know.
Right.
If you have asthma, you're supposed to take care of yourself.
Right.
If you have an immune system that you can't even go out, because there's certain people that if they get a little cut, they start bleeding a lot, they have to run to the hospital. They got to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
So all these things, you already know you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So why is it that it takes this to tell you
to do that?
To do this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And another thing is that everyone is talking about the coronavirus. Oh, you might die. There's only been, I think, 10% of the people that caught corona died.
Right.
Versus almost 40 to 50% of the people that caught flu has died.
Right.
But you don't see no one closing down stores.
Stores, right.
No one saying nothing. The only thing they do is say, remember, it's the flu season now.
Right.
Get your flu. and get your medicine.
Right.
Like, get your flu shot. Get your flu shot.
Right,
and
right.
half of the people that took a flu shot still got it and still died.
Right.
So why are we not forcing the flu when the flu kills more than this strain that has been
Right.
going on for many years? It's not just started.
Right.
This strain of it has been going on for many years.
Right.
The only problem is that this strain now has grown even to a bigger substance.
Right.
That's why they call it the 19.
19. Right.
And I just found out that the infection is the same as a flu.
Right.
The only thing on top of it is that they say you can get ammonia from it. You can get this. Wait a minute. Back it up.
Right.
Didn't half of the people were dying from ammonia after they were getting the flu any old way?
Right. Well, I
This is
actually.
why I'm saying, like,
yeah.
why are they not attacking the flu the way they attack this?
I
And it's been
actually
going on
have an
many
answer for you.
years.
I actually have an answer for you. And this is another reason why I wanted to compare the HIV and AIDS of the 80s and the coronavirus now. One of the challenges that they have with the coronavirus that differs from the flu is that with the flu, you usually are not infectious until you start producing symptoms, right? Now, do you remember back in
Oh,
the
it's the same
80s?
with the corona.
Right, but
virus.
with the
You
coronavirus,
can hold it for almost 3 weeks before it even comes out.
right, but you can be infectious before it comes out.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So
saying.
right, so unlike the flu, where the flu you have to show symptoms before you're infectious, with the coronavirus you can be infectious even if you're asymptomatic. Now the challenge that we're having with the
Before
coronavirus,
you say that, I just want to make sure that when we're speaking of the flu, we're not speaking of the common
flu,
cold
right,
flu.
right,
Because that's why a lot of people are
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
not
yeah.
afraid of it.
Yeah.
Because they're like, what are you talking about? No. There's certain types of flu, the same way there's certain type of corona.
yeah.
The corona is 19.
Right,
So
right, because
think
this is a
about it.
different strain than previous.
Right.
Yeah.
Why would they give? This is why I'm telling people
Yeah.
they're not thinking. Why would they give a number 19 when the number starts at 1?
Right,
Or
when it's
0?
been here before.
And in reality, numbers start at 0.
Well,
but,
yeah.
You know, they gave it 19.
Yeah.
The flu has almost 7 to 8 strains.
Strains,
The
right.
first strain is the regular flu.
Right.
Choo-choo. You
Right.
take a Theraflu, or in the Spanish
Right.
case, you take Vicks.
right.
You call it a day.
Right.
That's the regular flu. We're not speaking of that. We're speaking of the terminal flu where they got to take you to the hospital type flu.
Right. So to your point, so one of the similarities is that, do you remember back in the early 80s, there was a group called the AIDS carrier? In other words, that they carry the virus, but their bodies never seem to produce the disease. It's just that they carry the virus, and they could expose other people with it because they were asymptomatic. They weren't showing any symptoms. And so that's the concern with the coronavirus today too. There are people who will test positive for the coronavirus. They're asymptomatic, and asymptomatic means that they're not showing any symptoms. In other words, like me, I could probably test positive for the coronavirus, and I'm not exhibiting any symptoms. And so therefore, if I don't think that I'm carrying the coronavirus and I do test positive, right, I'm not going to self-quarantine myself. And if I don't self-quarantine myself, then I'm going to go out there and start, infecting other people. I could potentially infect other people not realizing. So that's part of the reason why they're trying to close down. I think the other thing is that because this pandemic has been moving so quickly, again, the difference between a pandemic and an epidemic is that a pandemic tends to start in one region and it spreads fast. And so this is spreading faster than we can understand this virus. And I think that's the reason why they're shutting down everything, because they don't really have an answer to how to deal with this. And I think they're thinking the best way to do it is to just shut everything down as a precaution. And then I guess once we get more information, maybe, maybe they would have thought differently about this. I think the rush is that this is happening so fast, right? It's like throwing a match in gasoline. It's just spreading so fast that we're trying to figure out how to contain it. And I think that's the reason why they're closing everything down. I think it's the asymptomatic carriers who don't know they're infected. And
Yeah, that can be the health reason maybe why,
Yeah.
but it's not the complete reason. And again,
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to be speaking about that whole concept of it,
Yeah.
because there's a lot more to this
Yeah.
that people are not seeing.
Yeah.
And The virus itself, well, we only got a few more minutes for this topic, but
Okay.
the virus itself, it is going fast, the same
Right.
as the flu. If you notice, you'd be like, you have the flu, then your kid has the flu, then you're like, oh, it goes as fast as this is going.
Right.
So for them to have a whole epidemic panic,
Right.
it's not necessary.
Right.
And I'm going to say it again,
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
is
yeah.
not necessary
Yeah, yeah.
to close everything down when, and again, I'm going to say it, when again, the flu is the same season as
Right.
a coronavirus. Coronavirus has been out since the flu.
Yeah.
So they say, don't go here. And if you look at the map,
Mm-hmm.
half of the places that people were catching the flu were in the concerts. And
Right.
half of the people in are big places.
Right.
And then half of those people that caught the flu passed away.
Right.
Again, why you didn't make it as big as this? Because you think that you're okay with it.
Yeah.
We got a shot. We got a this. And I just want to make sure that everybody know,
Yeah.
even because I know what the government and the mayor's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
say.
yeah.
We finally found a cure. There's no cure for anything.
Right.
Nothing in this world, there's a cure.
Right.
So that word
Or
cure.
guarantee, right? 'Cause
Word.
there's-
Because that word cure, even my voice, sometimes when I say it, I'm like, why did I just say cure?
Right.
Because there's no such thing.
Yeah.
That should not even be in the vocabulary.
Right.
It's just called a
You
patch.
don't think it's possible for their...
No, there's
to
no
get
cure for
No cure.
anything.
Right,
If you think
right.
about it, if there was a cure for flu, why do we have to take a shot every single
Right.
year?
Right.
If there was a cure for AIDS,
Right.
why are people worrying about it?
Right.
It's called a patch.
Right.
Cancer, there's no cure. Oh, we got a cure for half of the cancer, so then why are there 4-time survivors
Right.
of the same thing?
Right.
Because there's no cure. It's called a patch.
Right.
So don't, when they say it, because they are going to say it, we
Yeah,
finally found a cure, don't let your guards down.
Right.
Continue doing what your mother and father
Right.
have been telling you since you were day
Right.
one, smacking you on the lips because
Right.
you were touching and putting stuff on
Yeah.
your mouth, touching your hands, not washing your hands.
Yeah.
Things that your mother and father has been telling you, continue doing it because don't let your guards down.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the problem.
Well,
That's what happened with the flu. A lot of
Yeah.
people letting their guards down knowing it's flu season,
Yeah.
but they wind up catching it.
And it's interesting because historically we've been down this path before because I remember even as a kid, both my parents, they worked, they ran businesses, and my grandmother used to take care of us. Me and my brothers and my cousins, she used to take care of us. And she always made us wash our hands. We always had to wash our hands, even when we came in from outside, not even just before we ate. Even when we came in, it came in from the outside, we had to wash our hands. So much so that to this day, I always carry that with me. I never eat.
Yeah,
unless I
wash your hands before.
Right.
Dinner
My-
time, what they say, go wash up.
Go wash. Yeah. Even when I
know?
buy stuff too, like one of the things I do is, and it always reminds me of my mom, let her soul rest in peace. Every time, like if I buy, a bottle of soda, I always rinse all that before I put it in my refrigerator. I can't tell you how many times I see people put stuff from the outside. Now, imagine how many people have touched that, put it back, say, oh, no, I don't want it, put it back. You buy it, and then you put it right in your refrigerator where all your food is, right? And my mom always told me, rinse anything you put in the refrigerator, rinse it. And to this day, that stays with me. And so when this whole thing happened with the coronavirus, one of the things that really brought me back to that time was the idea of just washing your hands. I was like, wow, it's almost like we've been down this road before
Yeah.
because why?
Because the doctors from the 40s and 50s, which
Yeah.
is your parents,
Yeah.
kept
Right.
telling you, wash up.
Yeah.
Wash this.
Right.
Don't sit on the couches with your pants like, dirty pants on. Go wash up. I'm hungry. Well, going to take a bath.
Right, go
What
do- right.
So all this has been down
Take
the
your
road.
clothes off, change into clothes. In Europe, people, when they come in from the outside, they take off the clothes that they were wearing from the outside and they change it to something
To their-
that
to
they wear
their
on the
house.
inside. Right.
But you know
And
what's
we
so
don't do
funny that you say
anymore.
that? Back in the days, I remember you had your Sunday clothes.
Right.
What are you doing? I'm going to wear. No, that's your school clothes.
Yeah.
So you always had a clothes
Yeah.
for something.
Yeah.
Where you going? Oh, I'm going outside. Well, then take off your school clothes and put your outside clothes.
Yeah, yeah.
And then go wash your hands and do that. But now it's like,
No, we don't do stuff like that anymore. My neighbor, I have a neighbor who was telling me one time that he remembers back in the days when bed bugs was a real issue. And I'm talking about like decades ago. I'm not
Right,
even
right.
talking about the more recent scare. But and he told me that I never knew this, but he told me in a lot of like in the South, what people used to do is in the summer they used to take their mattresses and they they used to put it outside for the sun to hit it.
Right.
And I never heard of that. And he said
Wow.
that was common back then to do that because of back then when they had a bed buzz. After
Right.
that, then they had,
The
solution
sprays and all that
sprays,
stuff, yeah.
They had remedies for that.
But I
back
think
then
that's
they
where it came where your mother would be like, what are you sitting on the bed? You just came from outside.
Right.
Don't be sitting on my
didn't.
bed.
Right.
That's where it came from.
Exactly. But
So-
we nowadays, and so imagine when we had
We
the
took-
bed bug scare, people coming from the outside, you're sitting and then you're wondering why everyone's getting bed bugs because we no longer practice
Of what our
cleanliness,
parents were
the
saying.
way our parents
And
used to
that's why
teach us.
I say that this sickness is going on, and I gotta watch it. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
First of all, it's not airborne.
Yeah.
Because if it was airborne, everyone would probably be getting sick because a virus that is airborne stays for more than 3 to 4 minutes, I think it was.
Yeah.
So even if there's no one around and there was someone there, you're still gonna get sick.
Yeah.
So that thing of I don't want to go outside because I don't even want to get close to people.
Right, right.
A sneeze goes 2 miles per hour
Right.
and it reaches up to almost half I think it was like 15 to 20 feet.
Yeah.
So that 3 feet thing, that's bull crap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to say 3 feet away from somebody. That's bull crap.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people, when they get hype and everything, they spit, that little spit hits you. Wow. What they do, hey, you spit on me, and then they rub it on their
freak out,
cheek.
right, yeah.
So all these little things that been common,
Yeah.
now all of a sudden you want to do it, but you're scared about it.
About it, yeah.
The fear is what's killing people,
Yeah.
not the virus.
And
And it's killing the pockets.
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to mention about about that HIV activist who wrote that article about comparing HIV/AIDS and coronavirus. I think he was kind of alluding to this, but it made me think about it too. And I've been thinking about this. Don't you find it interesting that a lot of high-profile people are testing positive for this? When, like back in the days when it was HIV and AIDS, you rarely ever heard of someone famous or high-profile person, testing positive for HIV. And if they did, it was kept such a secret because of the stigma, especially, if you were gay, you were outing yourself even if you didn't want to. If you weren't gay, people thought you were gay because how did you get this? Because only gay people get this.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting now how so many high-profile people are testing positive for the coronavirus. And I think in some ways, I don't know if that is humanizing the story more. It's
No,
interesting
I
because,
can tell you.
What do you think?
I can tell you what I think and what I know.
Yeah.
We are in a society of followers,
Okay.
people that think they're entitled to stuff.
Right.
And the one thing that we follow celebrities. If you notice, like, sorry what happened with Kobe.
Right.
But how many family members died all of a sudden?
Right.
But no one in your family starts getting the things that they did when Kobe died.
Right.
When an artist or a celebrity happens to some of them, it's like, oh my God, like they put them in the God pedestal.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So now media finds out, says, hey, this one has it. So,
Right.
oh my God, wait.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks have it? That means anybody can get it.
Right.
You forget he's human too?
Right.
So that is the problem. That's why media is eating.
Right.
They're using that.
And people,
okay.
right, the consumers.
Because just like I said, we have independent artists here, and we're going to be playing one of the independent artist songs
Good.
on our break.
Yeah.
We push them. But you look at people's pages, who do they push more?
Right.
The Main Street artist,
Yeah.
who's not even paying you for promotion,
Right.
but you won't promote independent artists.
Right.
Because you're putting celebrities as gods on
Right.
top of everything.
Yeah.
So what happens when a celebrity happens to them?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The Me Too movement took off crazy
Right.
because they were celebrities. But the Me Too
Everyday
movement
people
been
who-
going on with everybody
Right,
around here.
right.
How many people got raped and this and
Right,
that?
right.
But no one cared.
Right.
That's why this is going so big, especially
Yeah.
when they said Tom Hanks. They didn't really have to say he has a sickness.
Right.
But because you don't hear them mentioning the person's name that just another person in Brooklyn has caught it. What's his name? It doesn't matter. He's
Doesn't
nobody.
matter. Right. Right.
That's the reason
Idris
why.
Elba is another actor, high-profile actor who tested positive. The wife of Justin Trudeau, the president
Yeah.
of Canada. I mean, it's just all these high-profile people, and that was unusual. That in comparison to the early '80s with HIV/AIDS, for someone to come out, it was
Yeah.
like you were dying.
And don't worry,
You know,
Jessica. If you need someone to console you, I got you. I don't worry about that. I got you.
He's not just the producer of the show.
We catch it together.
Right, exactly.
No, but we're going to take a small break, and when I come back, I want to talk about this thing that's been going around online where the parents or the mothers are dressing their boys in dresses and giving them dolls and stuff like that.
Okay.
Is it right or is it not? We're going to come back and we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Make sure you tune in.
They say we are only as strong as we are united, and as weak as we are divided.
All this is wrong. This isn't right. We stand together, united forever to win this fight.
What's going on, like Marvin said? Turn on the TV, more innocent lives dead. Time that we should all come together instead. People choose sides from the lies they've been fed. War against terror, we fighting over color. Separated instead of unite with one another. And talk is cheap, actions speak loud. Cause all lives matter, all lives matter. If I could bring them all back, I would bring them all back. Mr. President, I think I need a call back. Take a look around us, we can't just ignore that. We can't just ignore that.
No está bien. Unidos siempre en la guerra ardiente podemos vencer. We can't win this fight alone. We're much stronger together, finding peace within our home. We can overcome any weather.
Are we ready to fight together? Are we ready to stay together? Are we ready to learn together? It's time for us to come together. We must learn to forgive together, so we can all live together. To end all the hate together. Now let's all get together. If I could bring them all back, I would bring them all back. Mr. President, I think I need a call back. Take a look around us, we can't just ignore that. We can't just ignore that.
We have fought to make it right. The darkness can't take out our light. Staying true to who we are forever.
You believe in a fair and just and inclusive America. You know that constant change has been America's hallmark, that it's not something to fear, but something to embrace. You are willing to carry this hard work of democracy forward.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Out in the Open. I'm your special guest host, Sam Vasquez, and with me here, Charles, the producer of the show. We're here discussing hot topics.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And I'm glad you guys are tuning back in. We would definitely love your feedback. So, if not today, in the future, we would love to hear from you. But I think Charles has a hot topic he wants to introduce.
Oh, yes. For you guys that don't know, this is LGBT talk show, so
Yes.
we have to talk about it. There are more and more, I guess ever since the basketball player said that his son his daughter is gay and wants to change.
Yes.
Now there's
That's
females.
Gabrielle Union.
Gabrielle
and
Union's and
Wayne's,
Wayne's son or daughter.
Yeah.
Or however-
Transgender, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he's a little older.
Yes.
That's okay. But 4, 5, maybe 3 years old, putting them into dresses and things like that, I'm not for it.
Right.
I think at that age, into 5 to 6, they a sponge.
Right.
Especially younger.
Right.
3 years old is what I call the nerd years.
Right.
What's this? What's that for? If he's doing that, I want to do that.
Right.
Oh, he's wearing the dress. Put it on the dress on me.
Right.
But you don't explain why.
Right.
I think it's like you're trying to change the person.
Right.
Well, I seen him play with a doll, so I'm gonna let him get his inner person. What inner person? Everybody played with a doll once in a while. Doesn't mean that he has an inner person.
Right.
So you're putting a dress on him for that?
Right.
I don't
I
don't know. What you think?
Yeah. So my I think that it's good we're having this conversation because I don't think that there's necessarily a right answer. I think that what a lot of parents are doing is that they don't want to attach any shame if a child wants to do something. They want to encourage them. Because I think if you think about, we've had the same sort of debate or argument when it came to the LGBTQ, right? People always say, parents used to blame themselves and say, oh, what did I do that you came out gay? And parents don't do anything that make us gay. We're born that way, right? And nothing really influences us. If you're gay, it doesn't matter if your parents try to raise you straight or they try to raise you gay. If you're gay, you're gay. If you're homosexual, you're homosexual. And so I think similarly to this, I think that if kids want to do something, I don't think parents should discourage them because it just attaches shame to them. And that's what they learn, really, the kids, right? So if a boy wants to wear a dress, that doesn't mean that for his whole life he's going to be wearing dresses. He may or may not. We don't know, But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong if he does. Believe me, there's nothing that you're going to teach someone that unless they're born a certain way, they're going to stick to, right? So I think what parents is to not discourage their kids by attaching any shame to it, because oftentimes it's the shame. Because let's say, for example, if that child wants to wear, the boy wants to, if he identifies as a boy, and he wants to wear dresses, I think what will happen is if he starts to feel like he can't wear dresses and the parents are not allowing him to, that boy could become depressed. And you may not even realize when that boy becomes depressed. And then when they go into their teenager years, the teenager years is when they're really, being a teenager, period, is
Right.
hard. Imagine if you attach a shame that, oh, I want to do this, but my parents don't let me because they're saying I'm a boy and I got to dress a certain way.
Right,
And
right.
that's the real risk that I think a lot of parents want to do. I think parents want to, in this day and age, because I think we learned a lot. Interestingly enough, in connection with the whole, I think the HIV/AIDS crises of the 80s, I think one of the things it taught us is that many parents say, had I had more information, I would have had a better relationship with my
Yeah,
child.
that
And instead, so I
that
think
goes with
that
everything.
right. And so I think that the point is that I don't think that if you allow your child to do something that they're expressing they want to do, is gonna really leave them an impression that this is what they're gonna. If they want to do it, they're gonna do it whether they're an adult or they're a child. The thing is your child happy, right? Because you don't want them to learn, this is wrong, even though I like it, it's wrong. And then so I can't be honest with mommy and papi because it's wrong, or I can't be honest with my parents because they say this is wrong. And so I think that's the concern with.
Well, I don't know. I gotta disagree a little
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, they are sponges.
Right.
I know a couple of family members. Or you ever heard, oh, I'm a third generation police officer or a third generation doctor.
Yeah.
Why is it that? It wasn't because they forced them. It's
Right.
because they see it in their family. They see it
Right.
and they see it, so they continue doing it.
Right.
So it's the same thing with sponges. If you keep showing them, they're gonna wind up wanting to wear dresses. They're gonna probably think in their mind, I'm supposed to be a girl
Right.
because this is how I was brought up.
Right.
So there are times where I can say, yes, you can turn a person to being gay. You can turn a person to be a psycho killer.
Right.
This is the Army too.
Yeah.
Has a lot of people that were nerds, but then now they turn them into serial killers
Right.
type of persons that they don't care.
Right.
So you can change people mentally. There are rapists that have their person that they've been raping in their house. At the first, they were not okay with it, but then they were in the house so long that they become attached
Right.
to their rapist.
Right.
There's cases
you
like
think
that.
like they're sort of brainwashed.
Right.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. If you are going to allow it hey, dresses are for girls. You're not a girl, but if you feel like one and you want to talk to me later on, let me know. But for right now,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be wearing dresses. You should be thinking of being a boy, 3 years old.
But that's again. So that's
So you're explaining.
right.
But the parents nowadays, they want to worried about what the social media want to say, what the neighbors. Oh no, you should let them. First of all, you're not raising my kid. Don't tell me what to do.
Right.
I hate when people do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they don't do it with their own kid. But explaining to the child so they can have that confidence in case they can talk to you.
Right.
But by saying no, you're a boy, you're not wearing it. That's where
Right.
I'm going with you on
Right.
that, because you're downgrading, and they're like, oh wait, what? No, if I do that, he's going to be mad.
Right.
So no, explain to them first why you shouldn't be doing that. Just like when I was playing with the dolls, my mom was like, you don't play with dolls. Dolls are for the girls,
Right.
you know, and these are for you
Right.
that you play with,
Right.
you know? So explaining helps a child that's a sponge, because right now at 3 to 4 years old,
Right.
they ask questions about everything.
Right.
They repeat what you say, they repeat
Yeah.
what you do. And I realized that the other day when I was at the studio, I'm looking for my gloves, and I was like, oh, I found my gloves. Right next to my gloves
Yeah.
was my son's glove.
Right.
And he never puts his gloves there, but he seen me put him,
Put it, right.
so he assumed this is where it's supposed to go.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you put dresses, they assume this is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And they're going to carry their life on thinking that it's supposed to be, because no one explained to them.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. If you're going to
Yeah,
put a dress on them, explain to them.
Right.
But don't think that you're going to not have backlash after that.
Right.
Because you're putting a dress on a child.
Right.
Because I remember back in the days when your mom used to sew, my mom used to be like, put this on real quick, because you're the same height. I'm like, hurry up, mom, because I don't want nobody seeing me in this dead
Right,
dress.
right,
You know what I'm saying? But you understood it was not for you. It was for her to measure,
Right,
so
right.
she can sew that bottom
So
of the
that-
dress,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
you can
yeah.
take it off and keep on
Yeah,
walking.
Yeah.
She explained.
Yeah.
This is the problem. They're not explaining to the little kids, and they putting them in dresses
Right. So the
and
issue.
crowns and everything.
Right.
like,
Right. The issue is communication. Right.
pretty much.
The idea, right, exactly, and I think that that's the important thing, because I think what a lot of parents are doing today is that when the child expresses to wear a dress, many parents are communicating with them and saying, if you want to wear this and this is what you feel comfortable with, then by all means you could wear it. I think what most kids will remember is that their parents didn't force them to wear it. They encouraged them to express themselves. And I think that that's what kids are doing. But I do agree. I do think that communication is key, right?
Right.
In these situations, because I don't think no matter how much, when you brought up the example of, how generations of cops and generation of firefighters, oftentimes, people are just encouraged to do something because their parents thought
That's what I'm saying.
security, right?
Because they see them doing
Right.
it, and they're like, whoa, then I'm going to do it. So,
Do it,
so
right.
that's why I said, like, a lot of people were afraid with good causes,
Yeah.
when they allowed gay couples to adopt.
Right.
A lot of people were like, oh my God, now my kid is going to get gay because of that reason.
Right.
And this is why I think they didn't start right away that you can adopt a baby.
Right.
Because of that. They didn't want them
Right.
to be influenced.
Right.
So as they started teaching them that you can't tell them this, you can't tell them that,
Right.
you need to explain to them, they started opening up to newborn babies.
Right.
Because as they grow up, whatever they see, like I can, and it's proven fact, I can take 5 newborn babies right now, go to an island and make my own language up, my own way up.
Right.
And that's what they know and only know, and that's what they're going to wind up doing.
I don't know
You
if I
understand?
agree with that, because I think that if you're geared a certain way, eventually you're gonna, if you feel strongly about it, you're gonna rebel against that.
But
And
if you
that's
don't know,
what
if you don't know no other way, you won't rebel. And then half of the people that don't rebel, Jews, matter of fact, you got the Amish. These people are living, and some of them still wind up knowing the city. Like they say,
Right.
like let's take the Amish for instance. They can leave for a year to go out into the.
Yeah.
Half of them wind up, more than half, come back because they were like, wait a minute, that world is crazy. This is the only thing I know.
Right.
That's why it's called brainwash.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing I understand.
Yeah. But
So
by that same token, because that was the same argument that was used with gay gay boys and gay girls, right?
Right, right.
Most kids are raised in a heterosexual, are raised in a heterosexual household, and yet we still come out.
Right, right.
There's something that always drives us.
Right.
Now,
No, but that's what I'm
if you
saying.
believe in something-
If you are that mentally wise and body wise, then that's not going to change you. But if you're not and you're trying to change that person, it can mess up their brain. Like, oh, wait a minute. If I'm supposed to be like dressing like this all the time, and then when they get older, they're gonna be like, why are you dressing like that? I don't know. My mom used to always dress me like that. But
Yeah.
they're not gay, but they feel like they're supposed to wear that.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Well,
like,
I
don't push it on them.
conflate gender identity with orientation.
Right.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if we're talking about kids who express wanting to, if a boy wants to wear the dress and the parent doesn't discourage it, that's different.
Oh, no.
than a parent
Yeah, we're not talking about that. We're
forcing-
talking about
right.
parents putting
Right.
the dress on the
Right,
on a
but
small
that's forcing
child.
them, right? Because that's different.
That's
from
what I'm
that.
trying to say.
Right. So forcing someone to wear a dress, a boy to wear a dress, is different than if a young boy.
But
is,
even if a
expressing
3-year-old
interest.
says, I want to wear a dress, that, Papi, I understand you want to wear the dress, but that's for girls. Because my son
Right,
would
but
tell you half of the things, no, you can't do that. That's girls do that one, and we do this.
But you see
Girl,
how
you know what I'm saying? You explain to them
Yeah, but that
before
can be
anything.
also a little detrimental because if let's say aside from your son, but from another boy who's expressing a difference in gender identity, they don't feel like a boy. They connect with girls. That's what the boy is trying to tell you, and this is what parents are starting to become aware of now. That early on,
but not
they're trying to.
not at 2 to 3. Even science proved that your brain does not develop until you get towards 30. Why you think there's 13-year-olds that would be punk rockers, and all of a sudden they're not punk rockers? They can be, because I met a couple people that were teenagers that they said they were gay, and then when I met them as they got older, they're not gay no more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, wait a
Right,
minute,
right.
why? Because
right.
they've been around people
Right.
that they thought they were like them, and so that's why I said, do not force it on a person.
right.
Let them, as they get older, realize it themselves. And
But
you're seeing it a lot in teenagers now.
But then I would counter you that you're saying if the boy is saying he wants to wear the dress, and you're saying at 3, no, you're forcing something on
No,
the
no,
boy that
you're explaining to them, no, this is a girl's
Yeah, but
thing,
why-
and
but
you're a
that's-
boy.
But that's the whole point. You're forcing
Because
when
it's
you
3
say
years
that.
old. You don't know if that person does not know if he's a boy or girl yet.
Right.
In his mind, he's not saying, I'm gay.
But then when you say, "Oh, you're a boy. You only boys wear this," you're forcing. If you don't know that, he's
No, but
identifying
that's
as
what I'm
a boy.
saying. He's a boy because he has a penis and everything.
Yeah,
And
but
he was
that-
born a boy. So
Right,
you
but
have
he's
to raise him.
biologically here.
You have to raise him to a boy until he's mentally understanding if he's not.
No,
That's when you have to show.
I disagree with that because
Because
even
how old do you think you're gonna be when you realize you're not the sex that you were born?
It depends. Not everything is clear cut. Like for example, like me, when I was as long as I remember, I knew I was attracted to boys. There was never a point in my life that.
So
I
at
had
2 years
something
old,
like
you
that.
knew you were attracted to boys.
Well, whatever I could remember. But no. But what I'm saying is
Oh, yeah.
that for everyone, for everyone is different.
Right,
And
right.
I think the whole point is not to discourage, is to communicate and talk about that.
Oh, yeah,
But
that's
they'll
the big-
express
the
early
big-
on.
the big
But,
thing.
these are more hot topics that we're going to be having. I'm glad that you brought that up because a lot of viewers are wondering about this too. But we'll have more hot topics coming up. But thank you for having me again.
Well, you're part of the cast, so it's not thank you for having you. You're part of the cast,
Well,
so yeah,
good.
So
I guess I got approved.
yeah.
But thank you.
So again, guys, thank you guys for coming up and showing your love and
Yes.
watching.
Yes.
And all I can say is just continue studying and don't take everything that a person says, even in the show,
Right, at face value.
at face value.
Yes.
Even a show like this,
Yes.
study, because they say history is written by the winners and not by the ones that are sitting back.
Right.
So if you're sitting back, you don't really know what's going on,
Right.
Because the person wrote it. So
Yeah,
now
yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
no, experience it first, and then you understand what's
Yeah,
going
and
on.
just quickly, I just want to send a shout out to Apollonia Cruz and Kelly Kaboom. Mr. Love you guys.
All right, you guys, be safe.
know